So those who joined us, welcome. We're just giving it a couple minutes before we get started. I went ahead and launched the poll. If you guys feel free to answer the questions on the poll. All right, welcome guys. Yeah, looking at the poll, it looks like a lot of you guys are just beginners at a lot of these technologies, but I do see some couple of people who are experienced as well. So to get started, I'll introduce myself. My name is Sonu. I work at Be Cloud Ready. I've been working at Be Cloud Ready for about a year now as a software developer. So yeah, so today what we're going to go through is we're going to be able to deploy our Flask application onto an EC2 instance, and we're going to do that all automatically. So we're going to automate the entire process with one Python, with one Python file. We're just going to click run, and everything should work. It should launch an instance, deploy our app on that instance, so we should be able to see our instance running on that our Flask app running on that EC2 instance. So yeah, here at Be Cloud Ready, we work with a lot of corporate clients. We do a lot of training. So we work with clients such as Capital One, Ericsson, Bank of America. But we also do, like I mentioned, we do tech corporate training, but we also do student trainings as well. So anybody that's trying to learn for the first time, or even if you're a little bit experienced, we can be here to help you guys. But moving on, so today's webinar agenda, obviously this would be the fully fledged agenda as if it was a project, but since webinar we're short on time, it's going to be a little bit more compact than this. But I'll still go through the steps that what we would do, whether in the assumption that we're creating this for the first time. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have to create a simple Flask web application. with the assumption that that Flask app is going to be ran on an EC2 instance, which is the cloud instance of an Amazon AWS box, basically. So after that, we need to automate the process of creating that EC2 instance. We need to automate the process of running the Flask app on that EC2 instance. And then we're going to launch our Flask app or our website on that EC2 instance. The whole point of this is that with one click of a button, everything should be running and working. So, and then at the end, you guys will be able to play around and modify the code with your by yourself as you wish. So don't worry if you guys aren't understanding these terms like AWS, EC2, Flask. We'll go ahead and describe all of that as we move forward. So once again, the steps, we need to create our Flask app. We need to push the Flask app to a GitHub repository and ensure that that Flask app is working on an EC2 box manually. After that, we're going to go start automating everything by automating the creation of the EC2 box and automate the running of the Flask app in that EC2 box. So obviously, since we're short on time and this is the webinar, I have a GitHub repository that you guys can fork, and all the files and everything are there. So all you will have to do is run the app for it to work. But these are the types of things that we do when we're training our students or anything. These are the type of projects that we will go through with them step by step from the very beginning to the end. So if you take a look at the model of what's happening here, the main core of this project will be on Python. Python, we will be using Flask to deploy our website, and we will be pushing that Flask application to GitHub. And then we will be using a library called Boto3. And Boto3 will be the library that automates the creation of our EC2 instance. We will be using a separate library called Paramiko. And Paramiko will allow us to enter our EC2 instance and deploy our Flask app within that instance to have our website up and running. So obviously you guys need to have Python and Visual Studio Code downloaded and ready to go. It doesn't have to be Visual Studio Code. That's just what I'm going to be using today. You can choose whatever IDE you guys are comfortable with. And so yeah, let's go ahead and get started by talking about what Flask is. So Flask is a microframe web framework, which is written in the Python language, and it was created by Armin Ronacher in 2004. It's actually one of the most popular web frameworks out today, and it was voted the most popular web framework in 2018. Flask comes with its own development server and debugger, which means you don't need to install these things separately. And it also has built-in Jinja templating functionalities. So you can use Jinja templating, which is basically like a bridge between your backend and your front-end server. You can use it as a bridge, I should say. It's basically a text compiler sort of thing, where it will capture whatever text you need to write or receive, basically, and use that as a variable. Flask also has support for secure cookies, as well as client-side sessions. It has extensive documentation, so any issues you will ever have with Flask, it can be solved by just going in the documentation. They have a bunch of examples there as well. And anything that's not available with the basic package of Flask, you can have extensions which are available to enhance any features as you wish. So installing Flask is very easy. You just ensure that you have Python installed on your machine, and pip is a package manager which comes with Python. All you need to do is run the command pip install Flask, and that will install Flask. For Mac users, you might need to install pip beforehand, and after that, you can pip install Flask. So yeah, we're just gonna get started with the very first Flask code. And this is actually the Flask code that we're going to be using. Actually, before this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and paste the link over here for you guys, the GitHub repository that we're going to be using today. I'm going to post it into the chat for you guys. And go ahead and fork this repository, which is over here, and then go ahead and git clone it into your own environment in your own system. So moving on. Yeah, so let's go over this piece of code one by one. So the first thing Flask is doing is it's importing the Flask library as well as a library called render template. We'll talk more about that in a bit. It's initializing the Flask class within the app variable. And we're actually over here, this app.route is setting up a route function. and we're setting it to the slash value. This would be where your URL is. So this could be like slash home slash anything you want, basically. We're just leaving it as slash because this is a very simple Flask application that we're running. And all of this, so when this website gets hit, basically, it's going to run this home function. And all this home function it's going to do is it's going to render a template, which is our HTML template, which will display our website. So this home.html is within that GitHub repository I showed you guys. And if we actually take a look at the code, so once again, this is the app right here, the Flask app. And when it hits this URL, when you enter this URL, it's going to trigger this home function. And all it's going to do is render the home.html, which if we take a look inside our templates directory, it's just a very simple, it's going to print a chart basically. Just a very simple chart. This is our HTML script that we're going to run. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of seconds to finish cloning the repository. And so you guys can take a look and see this code. All right, hopefully you guys have cloned everything by now. I realized I kind of went a little bit faster just in case you guys were busy cloning. What we're going to do is, so let me just recap this whole Flask application one more time. So we're going to import the Flask library as well as the render template library. All we're doing is initializing the Flask class so it's working with our code. We're setting a URL trigger right here. This can be anything. It can be slash home, it can be slash hi, anything you want. Right now we're just setting it to slash, so that just means whenever anyone hits our website directly, all we're going to do is we're going to trigger this home function. This is a Python function which is going to render a template, home.html, and that template you can find inside this template directory. And inside this template directory, you have the home HTML, which is just rendering an HTML page. All it's going to do is it's going to render one chart. I'm using some chart.js library, some Bootstrap here. Don't worry about the HTML. We're not here to learn HTML. We're just going to focus on the Python aspect of it. So yeah, and then this, if you guys know Python, it's basically your main function. It's just going to run our Flask application on port number 80. And we have debug set to true. So if any changes are made to our code, it's automatically going to refresh our server for us. So we don't have to do that ourselves. All right. Okay, moving on. Yeah, so let's go ahead and start talking about AWS. So AWS in a nutshell is a cloud platform offering over 100 services, and EC2 is one of those services that it offers, and it's actually one of the most popular ones. It's basically a compute box in the cloud that is available to you guys it provides secure, resizable cloud or compute capacity inside the cloud. It's a web service basically. So we're going to have to set up an AWS account, and hopefully you guys have already done this. You guys have your own free tier AWS account. And we're gonna run through some of the steps that we need to set up for our application to work. So if you go into your AWS console and go to the service IAM, you can also find that by just searching over here. So you guys will land on this page. I'm gonna try to go a little slowly so you guys can keep up. And yeah, once you're in this page, you're going to go into a user section. We're going to have to create a user so that our user is able to access our AWS console remotely. And remember, guys, we're trying to create our EC2 instance remotely automatically, so we don't want to use the console at all. Our Flask app, our everything, our entire Python code should just be ran, and everything should work. So for that, it needs access, the programmatic access for it to work. So once you guys are at this page, you're going to click Add User. Okay, you're going to give your user a name. I'll just say something like test, and make sure you enable programmatic access. Your test user, or whatever you guys name it, your username, should have this access, so that way it will be able to access your console and create EC2 boxes for you guys remotely without going on the AWS console. Okay, I'll wait just a little bit for people to catch up if they need to catch up. And another thing I should mention, this webinar will be recorded. So if you guys are falling behind or if I'm going too fast, you guys feel free to rewatch this and follow along with the steps. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to click next, and we need to create a group. So some of you guys already may have, see, I already have, because I worked with this before. You guys may already have some groups already. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a new group. So click on the create group button. This will pop up. You need to give your group a name. So once again, I'll just say test. Name your group whatever you wish to name it. That doesn't matter. Then we're going to search for EC2 over here, and we're going to filter by EC2. You're going to scroll until you find something AWS or Amazon EC2 full access. This just means that we're giving our user that we created full access to anything EC2 related. So we need this to be able to create and manage our EC2 instance. So that's why we're giving them full access. So go ahead and create your group. And then we're going to hit next. Key pairs doesn't matter. This is optional. You don't have to do anything. And we're going to go next. And we're going to stay on this page right here before create user so everyone can catch up. All right, so once we're all here, we're going to go ahead and create our user. And when you create your user, you'll see a page like this where you'll see your username, and you have something called access key and the secret access key. And it also gives you the option to download the CSV. So whatever you want, download the CSV, but make sure you know the CSV will contain all this information for you guys. Make sure you know your access key ID and your secret access key. So I would recommend you download the CSV because we will be needing it for our next step. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. Since I already have a working user and a group, I'm going to go ahead and delete the user that I created. But for you guys, keep that user unless you already have a user from beforehand. And same thing with my group. I'm going to go ahead and delete the group that I just created, which I don't need right now. All right. So once you guys are at this step, what you guys are actually going to have to do is you're going to have to download the AWS CLI in order to set up your AWS environment within your local machine. So if you guys type in AWS CLI online, you'll see something over here like installing, updating. This is what you need. You need to download this file. On the left-hand side, it gives you a different OSs where you want to download. I'm using Windows. So I'm going to go ahead and click Windows. And I'm going to copy this link into the chat for you guys so it's easier for you. This is the Windows one, so if you need to change, go ahead and change. And right here is the MSI file. So go ahead and download that file and install it. Follow the instructions that it says. All right, I'll wait a little bit for you guys to get that done. And then once you have that done, I'm not going to move ahead yet. I just want to show you guys. Just open up a terminal. And the way you know that you have set up the AWS CLI properly is if you just type in AWS, you should get something popping up saying like AWS help, AWS command. If you get something saying this AWS command is not known, please try again or something like that, then you know you didn't do it properly. You need to see this. All right, so I'll go ahead and wait for you guys. All right, let's go ahead and continue. So the next step is we're gonna have to type in the command AWS configure. And then I can't hit enter on this command because I already have it configured and I don't want to reset my configuration. But basically, when you hit enter on this command, AWS configure, what it's going to ask you is for your access key and your access key, secret access key. And that's that user when you create it. I told you guys, remember, we need to download that CSV for that information. So open up that CSV and copy. It's just going to ask you if it's asking for the access key ID, then you're just going to copy the access key ID into there. If it's asking you for the access key secret ID, copy the secret ID into there. Okay. If it asks for anything else like default use or default zone or anything like that, you can leave that blank. That doesn't matter. Okay, so that shouldn't take too long. I assume you guys have that done already. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to switch our services to the EC2 service. This is the last part of the setup before we can continue. I know this is a little cumbersome, but some of you guys might already have this. We're going to find key pairs. If it's not over here already, you can look on the left-hand side and it will be under network and security key pairs. For those of you who already have key pairs, you don't need to worry about this. But for those of you who don't have key pairs, go ahead and create a key pair. The process is very straightforward. You're just going to click create key pair, and then it's going to ask you like what the name is, give it a name, and then create the key pair. It's going to download that key. If it asks if you want to save it as a PPK or PEM, make sure to save it as a PEM because we're using it as an SSH instance. We're going to log in as SSH. So go ahead and do that. I assume those who already use AWS, you guys probably already have a key pair set up and ready to go. Okay, so I'll give like maybe 20 seconds for you guys to create a key pair and then I'll move on. And that's the last setup that we need to do for this to work. One more time, just go ahead and go into the EC2 service You can search for here. It's also the very first one in compute. Once you're in the EC2 service, on the left-hand side, you're going to see network and security. Under that, you'll have key pairs, which will bring you to this page. All you're going to do is create a new key pair. I can just show you. It's just something like test. Make sure you put PEM, not PPK, and then just click create key pair. I'm not going to create one because I already have one. And that's all you have to do. It's as simple as that. Once you have that key pair ready to go, we can move on. All right, so moving on. Yeah, we don't need to worry about that because we went through all of that. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about what Bodo is. So Bodo is the AWS SDK for Python developers, and the latest version is Bodo 3. We'll go over more, so don't worry if you don't understand what that means. So let's talk about how we can install Bodo 3. The way to install Bodo 3, once again, is to just pip install Bodo 3. So very simple. When you have a terminal open, in my Visual Studio Code, the way to get a terminal is to click the terminal and then just new terminal. Over here, I'm just going to run, make sure you're in the proper directory, and then I'm just going to run pip install Bodo 3. And I already have Bodo 3 installed, so it's going to say requirements already satisfied for me. But for you guys, that's going to go ahead and download Bodo 3 for you guys. And then we also need to, eventually we will, so we'll just leave it for now. We'll get to that when it comes. So yeah, once again, so you get, for Mac users, you might need to install pip before you can run pip install. So Bodo has the different layers of APIs. They have client APIs, which are APIs which provide low-level service accesses. What APIs basically do is they let you use services which are allowed by Amazon. So for example, creating an EC2 instance, that could be done through an API, and Bodo makes it very easy for you to access that API. And Amazon also allows people to create EC2 instances remotely, and that's why we have access to that API. So once again, client APIs are low-level service APIs. They typically map one-to-one with the service API, whereas resource APIs, which is the ones that we're going to be using, are more of a broader term APIs, stuff like creating EC2 instances, etc. And they're object-oriented APIs for AWS. Bodo 3 makes them object-oriented, and they have identifiers, attributes. There, you can do actions, you can reference them, you can send them to collections, anything like that. A very quick example of creating an S3 bucket using Bodo 3, we're going to import the Bodo 3 library. You're going to set S3 to equal to the Bodo 3 resource of S3, and then you're just going to name the bucket, which we call test bucket, S3.bucket, and that's it. That's as simple as creating the bucket, and over here all we're doing is we're just printing that bucket which we just created. We're printing their key and when they were last modified. It's very simple. We're not going to worry about S3 buckets. What we're worried about is the EC2 instances. So I'm going to go through the code actually, but before that, I'm going to modify these slides a little bit. I'm going to move ahead to Paramiko, and then I'll just go through the code. So Paramiko is a pure Python interface built around SSH networking concepts. So to get into an EC2 instance, you need to SSH into that instance, right? Will Bodo 3 work without AWS configuration? No, you need to configure your AWS, or you need to hard code into your Bodo 3 your AWS security key and secret ID somewhere in there. The code that I have, it will not work without the AWS configuration. Paramiko, once again, so yeah, it will just basically allow you to SSH into an instance and allow you to run command prompts within your Python code as if you were inside the box all along. Okay, and the way to install Paramiko is pip install Paramiko. Very simple. So once again, just over here, when you open up your terminal, just run the pip install Paramiko. And for me, I already have it installed, so it will say requirements already satisfied. But for you guys, you need it for this code to run. All right, so now we're just gonna get into our code. And hopefully you guys can see this code pretty well. I raised the font size for you guys as well. So let's go to the main function. So let's start from the very beginning. We have a menu. It's calling the menu function first. So let's go over to our menu function. Our menu function is, this is basically I'm giving a user input so they can pick. So you can choose from the following region. Let's just stick to US East for 1 for now. And it's going to ask for like you guys to enter a number. So we're going to enter 1. When we run the code, you'll see what I'm talking about. And then it's going to ask for your key name. Oh, one more thing I should mention. Over here, there's a key directory. You need to enter your key inside this directory. Otherwise, this code won't work either. So your PEM key that you just downloaded from the security groups, or not security group, the network and security in the EC2 tab, you please download or move that file into this key directory. All right. And then after that, it's going to ask you for your GitHub repository URL where our Flask app is stored, so we can run that app. Then we have get image ID. It's just, this is the image ID of the operating system that we're going to use. So in our case, I'm always running an Amazon Linux 2. That's going to just find that automatically. It's using the Aboto 3 library to filter out. So this owner ID over here with the value this is saying that we're looking for an image ID that's made by Amazon. And then the description, it's filtering out all of them that doesn't say Amazon Linux 2. So there's only one Amazon Linux 2 EC2 instance, or like with this description basically. So it's always going to pick an Amazon Linux 2. And that way the EC2 instance that we're launching, it's going to pick that. This is also going to find our VPC ID. And then it's going to create a security group for us. So the security group will basically open up port 80 and it will open up port 22. Port 22 is the SSH port. Having this open will allow us to SSH into our EC2 instance, and having port 80 open will allow our Flask app to run on that instance. So it's going to create that security group. It's going to find the ID of the group that we just created. And here is where the magic happens. So here we're going to create our EC2 instance. It's going to take a region name, which we entered, which will be US East 1. It's going to take your image ID. So we're going to use an Amazon Linux 2 operating system. And it's going to create a T2 micro, because a T2 micro is a free tier eligible account or eligible EC2 instance. Then we're going to create our security, well, it's already been created. It's going to take that security group as well as the key name that we gave. So in my case, my key name is ansible.pem. And it's going to basically take all those values and it's going to launch our EC2 instance. Now, once the EC2 instance has launched, it's going to run this launch app, which is going to run our Flask application, basically. So it's going to try and, over here where it says client connect, it's going to try and connect into our EC2 instance using SSH. The default username is ec2-user for all Amazon Linux 2 instances, and it needs the access to the key, so it's going to go into our key directory and our ansible.pem, so it can SSH into it using the secret key. Then it's going to execute a couple commands. Obviously, we need to install Git inside our box, and we need to clone our GitHub repository, which contains this app.py. Or this Flask app, and then it's going to run a shell application. So if you take a look inside our shell, all we're doing is we're just updating yum. We're installing the pip package, and we need to pip install Flask because obviously we need Flask library for a Flask app to run. And doing all that, it's going to, over here is where it's going to run our Python Flask application. Okay, that was a lot, and it might be a little confusing, but let's just go ahead and run this app and see what happens. So first thing before I run this app, I just want to show you guys in my instances, I currently have one instance running. So when I run that app, you should see a second instance being created. So let's go ahead and run this app. So Python ec2.py. All right, and this is our menu. So we're going to select 1 for US East 1. We're going to give our key name. My key name is Ansible. And we're going to have to enter a GitHub repository URL. You guys will have your own URL, the one you forked. This is my URL, so I'm going to go ahead, enter that. and it's starting the process. It's printing our AMI ID, it's printing our VPC ID. It'll take some time to launch the instance. In fact, if we actually go over here and take a look at our instances and refresh this page, you might be able to see, yeah, you can see the second one is created. It's in the pending state, so it's setting everything up and setting it to launch. Yeah, this part will take some time because launching EC2 instances, setting up the GitHub repository within it and everything does take a little bit of time, but eventually it will run. Yeah, now it just printed the IP address of our EC2 instance. If you take a look at this IP address over here and compare it to the IP address of this instance, it's actually going to match. The recording will be actually, it will be emailed to you guys, or I'm not actually quite sure. Nicholas, can you answer that question if you're here? How will they get access to the recording?
Yeah, I think most people join through Meetup.
Mhm.
And if not, you can maybe let us know and we can just get your email off you. But if you did go through eMeetup, we will like contact you through there. We'll put the video up on YouTube and then you can just like access it through a link, of course.
There you go. All right, and yeah, so what ended up happening, it SSH'd into it. It actually ran our shell script, which installed the pip library, and then it installed Flask library, and then it actually went ahead and started our Python Flask application. So if we actually take a look at this IP address and go ahead and paste that, so fingers crossed, this should be running our Flask application, and as you can see, it is. This is the HTML that I have, which is just a very simple chart. And yeah, that pretty much covers everything. So our application is up and running and everything is working. So you guys saw within just one click, which is running this ec2.py file, everything just worked all through one Python script, right? Okay, and yeah, that pretty much covers it. We will have questions at the end, but before we get to the question section, I'm going to be handing it off to Nicholas, and he will be telling you a little bit more about our company and what we offer.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks very much, Sonia. I'm just share my screen here. Here we go. Yeah. So I hope everybody enjoyed the demo. That's pretty cool. It is impressive how much you can get done with one script. So if anybody was kind of confused about what we were doing there as well, EC2, as you probably know, is basically it's a computer that you can rent on from Amazon, and it's it's obviously in the cloud, and you can use those computers to run various applications. So we created an application with Flask, and we uploaded it to basically a computer that we've rented off of Amazon. And obviously, there's like a lot of reasons that you would want to do that. But primarily, I kind of want to talk now about what this demo might mean to people who want to enter the field, because we did our polling at the start, and a lot of people are said they're kind of beginners, and I think like 100% of people said that they are looking for work in the tech field or they want to move into it. And so Be Cloud Ready does offer support for people who want to do that. So we've created something called the Journey to DevOps Engineer program. So basically what this was is this was a little project that would so we've helped a lot of people. Let's kind of like talk about this a little bit. Some of our students have done very well, landed in big positions. Senior DevOps engineer at Walmart Labs, pretty cool. Yeah, we've ran some really good things. Of course, it's a little bit before COVID, but so basically the way that we've created the program is that um, one of our co-founders is a very senior DevOps person, and we were talking a lot about how would he be able to tell what kind of people he'd want to hire. And the simple answer is that we'd want them to have good projects that are relevant to projects, like live big working projects, like maybe multi-million-dollar projects that he'd be running, right? So if you have a relevant project that shows that you can do part of that project, then of course they can take you on to the project and they can give you some part of the actual project, right? So this is one of the projects that we, today the AWS with Python one is one that we work on with our students. And this is very much a project that will show potential employers that you are ready to work in a DevOps position. And this is our program is a very active learning approach. So basically we're going to help you build this project, and you won't be copying and pasting code, you'll be really creating yourself. And then before you go on the project, of course, we have to give you the right skills that you can build this project. But it's a very streamlined thing, right? So DevOps it's having a moment right now. I think that I recently saw a survey showing that they just passed data scientists as the best paid type of software people or technology professionals. DevOps it's just going crazy right now. So basically, the streamlined process is you have the projects that show that you are ready to work in DevOps. We first give you the skills, and then once you go out into the field, we help you with your resume, your interview preparation, things like that. And so just seeing, I think I have some questions here already. Awesome, yeah. So we'll be taking more questions at the end as well. And then, yep. So the nice thing about this is for people who are coming from like non-traditional backgrounds who may or may not have a CS degree. There is a lot of opportunity here, even if you don't have a CS degree. We don't know this company, but as we were searching for resumes to make sure that our students would get jobs that we thought would be good for them, we came across a lot of job postings like this. So that's been excellent. And you can go kind of with these DevOps skills, you can go and apply for many, many different jobs. So the skills are not limited to just, some kind of very small niche, which may or may not come and go. It's just, they're applicable to a huge, huge field. And that's why I think they're so in demand. DevOps skills is because all teams are realizing that they need to increase their efficiency by bringing DevOps people on board. And in case anybody doesn't know, DevOps is basically traditionally developers who are creating features work to create new features, and then the operations people are the people who will run all of the servers and everything that basically you need to keep the lights on, so if people create an application, you need to access that application somehow, whether it's through your phone, through your browser, through your computer. And so all of that application stuff needs a lot of infrastructure, and the operations people are the ones who take care of the infrastructure. DevOps is a position that helps both of these two different positions work together, right? So development operations, that's what DevOps stands for. And it basically is creating a bridge so that these people can work together in a more stable way, a more efficient way. They can release code faster. The code will be cleaner. Basically, the time to market's down. So yeah, DevOps is it's huge. And so basically what happens is that you join the program. We give you intensive training, mentoring. It's actually we do a daily Q&A for 1 hour every single day where we see people's code, we talk to them, we give you feedback. There's lots of videos and stuff, so you can do it at your own pace. But at the same time, if you want to go really fast, we're here to support you. You land a junior DevOps position, and this is for beginner people. And so this is definitely close to the 60K range, but that's just getting started. And then you can really learn the rest of the skills pretty quickly that will get you into the 6-figure no problem range if you work at it hard enough, and like the top salaries in this they're just crazy. So yeah, you can definitely be aiming towards that. So we have basically it's our active learning phase where we're teaching the skills, we're building you and so in the internship phase you're building the projects. This helps you get some experience for your resume as well, because these are going to be like commercial projects, and once we've seen we can do that, we can give you a good reference. We've seen you build projects. Sometimes as well, we'll get DevOps projects that we'll need junior people to work on. So we put you on those. And in that case, those will actually be paid internships as well. But there has to be an unpaid internship part, which is just a learning phase at the start. So you should expect that. And then we do a placement where again, it's resume support, job interviews, all these good things. So this is basically just more about the program. There's just some people who did a survey about cloud, how cloud skills have affected their career, and it was overwhelmingly positive that these are things that have really made them be able to basically earn more money, in short, and be able to do more. So the program it's 3 to 6 months. It's flexible, so you can go at your own pace, but we're definitely going to try to keep you motivated to get it done as quickly as you can. You'll get support after you receive the position as well. So in a lot of cases, you're going to go to a boot camp, and they say, here's some skills, and like, thanks for coming, and we will see you, we'll see you kind of, we won't see you again, more or less. For us, we really want you to, we're so confident we can get you a position that you're allowed to stay in the program until you get a position. And then after you receive a position, we also offer post job support as well. So if you're 85% confident you can do the job, but 15% you're not sure about, but you get the offer and you take the offer and you're super excited, you probably don't want all that extra stress of like, can I do this? Can I not do this? Can I do this? So then we're here to support you as well, to make sure for your first couple months you're gonna do well, you're going to settle in nicely. And so, yes, this is kind of what we learn in the journey to become a DevOps. So we learn a bunch of the fundamentals, Linux fundamentals, and Python, all these good things, network security, and then we're going to go, all the way up through, all the way from Python all the way up to cloud optimization, which we saw today. And so, if you didn't understand what was going on today, it's definitely a lot to to wrap your head around at first. But once you break it into small pieces, it's definitely doable projects. Like I'm working with people every day who are completing these projects and doing really well on them, putting them on their GitHub so that people can see them. If anybody's not sure about what GitHub is, it's basically your online portfolio for code. So in a sense, it was created essentially to allow for collaboration so that people can work together on massive software projects. But one of the side effects of that is that you host code on the cloud, on GitHub basically, and then you can share that code with people. So employers can come by and they can see what projects you've been working on. And if you have like a industrial grade project on there that's going to show that you could work on their team, they're going to be much more likely to hire you. So we give you that, and that was kind of what we were showing today, and a bunch of other stuff as well. Some kind of the more advanced DevOps skills, and so we can kind of continue on here. So so Journey to DevOps 2, this is a bit more advanced stuff, and this is the stuff that's going to get you from your 60K up into 100,000 K at least. Like these are the skills that are very, very, very in demand right now. And then again, post training, we're going to do all this great stuff to kind of help you out, make sure that there's just because sometimes you have a candidate who's very, very strong, but there's just something that they don't foresee that keeps holding them back. Having that feedback and saying, okay, this is what you need to work on, goes just such a long way. Placement phase, again, we can help you find a job that fits you based on your previous experience. If you don't have any, we can tell you what to go after. If you really like, let's say, the development part, we can aim you more towards the development. If you really like systems, we can aim you more towards like a systems thing. So there can be a lot of customization where you want to fit in based on what you enjoy the most. And so we've had some really, really great results, about 70% within 3 months, about 90% within 6, and then 100% within a year for people who graduate the program, because the market's just red hot. If you've got the skills, we can get you a position, no problem. And so here's some students who had technical backgrounds, who had some non-technical students like medical backgrounds and, these kind of things, just stuff that was completely unrelated. Of course, that does take you a bit longer, but you can do it. So again, we've got self-paced videos. You can watch them over and over, and obviously it takes a while to certain things sink in. The one-on-one mentorship and really the daily Q&A sessions are really the best part, because sometimes we can really get stuck on certain concepts, but if you have someone tell you how, explain it to you in like 5 different ways over a couple days, it's really hard to get stuck. It will eventually sink in, especially if you're working hard. So yep, we really put a lot of effort and time with our students. We have a 1-week money back guarantee. So again, that's 5 1-hour Q&As. So you're welcome to come out to, ask questions, talk to us, interact with us, watch the videos, and then figure out if the program's right for you. Like no risk. You just try it out for a week, and it's honestly like it could. If you do it, you can get a job in this, and if that would be the definition of changing your life for you, then it completely can happen. So yeah, again, we've got the training phase, internship phase, and the placement phase. We also know a whole bunch of recruiters, so we can give you access to recruiters, and whenever we get jobs through vCloud Ready, if we do external contracting, which we often do, we can also put you on those contracts. There's lots of ways that we can help you get placed. So the training fee is, we used to be doing it for 2,000, but as we kind of got more students, we're doing better. We've reduced the price to 500. It's only for 3 months, so you only have to pay for 3 months, and you can stay in the program until you get a job. So that's pretty great, we'd say. And it's not a lot of these camps are $14,000, $17,000, and we've really debated if we want to go that route, because we can and we are getting people jobs. But right now we're keeping it kind of open like this. It's not full time, so we're not, you know what I mean? So you can also have a work-life balance. You can have a job as well, and you can also do the training with us. But yeah, this program fee works for us, and we think it's just so much better of an offering, given that the result is you get a job, which is the exact same. The asterisk there is that it's extra 3 months for an absolute beginner. So if you absolutely no code, nothing like that, then it's an extra 3 months to bring the total cost to $3,000. But it's 1,500 if you have some background, you can code a bit, you kind of know a little bit of this and that, then we can probably just do it in 3 months. It really is just getting a feel for how long it's going to take you to get through the program, because our goal is to get you the skills, get you the projects in 3 months and send you out. And yeah, that can be done if you've got that, if you have a bit of a background, and it's 6 if you have nothing. If you're coming in from, if you don't even know what Python is, then it's going to take 6. And then it's 1,000 per month for post-job Slack support. So, that might sound like a lot, but again, if you are making 60K and you want to make sure for the first 3 months that you're going to do really well in your job, maybe that's worth it to you. Again, this is a fast program, and we're not going to give you, a 4-year education, so you are going to need no support. It's a quick program, and some people need support, some people won't. But the idea is that you can be in the job market really fast, like really fast. You can go from nothing to in the job market as quickly as possible. And yep, and the jobs can be really, really, really lucrative. Again, DevOps it's incredibly lucrative right now. A lot of people want it, and not that many people can do it. So it's, yeah, supply demand. It's great. Cool. All right. So this is our Q&A, and we've got our registration page here as well. Some people were saying that the registration page, I'm not sure if there was it was a bit hard to navigate or something like that. So if there are any questions whatsoever, you can type them in, and you can also see our course syllabus there. There's a lot of material there, and you're not expected to cover all of that in the course of 3 months. We kind of will give you more specific instructions based on where you want to go and what we see is a good fit for you. But yeah, is there any questions? I see some people have their hands up here. Yeah, I just see someone asking about how much the program costs. I think I just covered that. If that is a recent question, then you can for sure let me know. Also seeing someone just asking where we kind of start in it. So what we do is we start with Python right off the go, because that is kind of, Python has sort of become this universal language because everybody creates a way to access their system with Python. So for example, for cloud, if you want to write a script on it, for any of the cloud services, like anyone, even just like anything, basically will have a Python connector so that you can take and write Python code, and then it will execute tasks on their system. Obviously with, constrained by security and things like that. Like I can't just go tell Amazon to send me a million, pairs of socks or something, right? Like obviously within whatever's secure, but I can access almost everything through Python. So when you learn Python, it's not that you're learning just one programming language. You're sort of learning the ability to do jobs almost anywhere on the web right now. It's amazing. You can scrape sites, you can get data, you can upload it to the cloud, you can run applications on it. If you want to do machine learning with it, you can just go crazy with Python. So we start people there, and it's very hands-on. It's very much like, oh, here's a lesson, but now we're going to do a whole bunch of questions. Another thing we like to do with students very quickly is that a lot of people don't know this, especially if you haven't interviewed before, but technical interviews are done in HackerRank. So HackerRank is an online platform where businesses can create, like hiring managers can create questions, and maybe it'll be like a set of 15 questions, and you'll have 2 hours to complete them. And basically it's an interactive portal. You log in, you've got to complete the questions. So we actually in the program get you on HackerRank very, very early, doing very easy problems. So you're used to the platform already. I was actually looking at some questions yesterday, and I could see that if someone didn't know how to use the system beforehand, they would have wasted half their time like logging in, figuring out where everything is, figuring out how to just navigate the system. But if you're super comfortable with it, it's just, you can do it so fast. Yeah, a lot of what we're going to be learning in the program too will be like cloud automation. So back in the day, you'd have to have all these different roles to do all kinds of, like, a lot of what Sonu showed us today. That could be like 2 or 3 roles. Somebody to write the, maybe more, I don't even know. Somebody to write the Flask application, somebody to make sure it's working, somebody to upload the Flask application and make sure that's working, somebody to provide the infrastructure. So basically the EC2 box, and then make sure that's there and get as many boxes as we want. And now we can kind of roll that up into one script that we can just press a couple buttons, enter a little bit of information, and it's done all at once. So for this reason, we do it's a lot of cloud automation. It's a lot of AWS. You get very comfortable using AWS, and not just from like a academic standpoint, like, oh, I know what a VPC is, but it'll be much more like you'll actually be able to do things with AWS through Python. So if you like today's demo, you will and you fork the GitHub repository, you will have that exact same project, but written in your own code with a deep understanding, you know what I mean? And maybe even modified a little bit to make it truly yours kind of thing. You would have that in your repository in 3 months. And you could go to people and show them like, I created this. So give me a job because clearly I'm capable. Will there be option to do quicker? Do we have to follow a fixed schedule? No, you don't. Yeah, so I'm just getting somebody asking, can you do it faster? Do you have to follow a fixed schedule? It's like, no, if you're a very, what's not precocious, but a very, very fastidious learner and you work very hard and you're, yeah, you just go really hard every day, you can get it through really quick, especially if you have some background too. Like you could get all of the stuff to go from some Python knowledge or whatever, a bit of cloud knowledge to automating, and writing scripts that are going to be run in the cloud that have the structure of an actual enterprise grade project. So obviously you're not building an enterprise grade project because that's many programmers working all together. But if you build a little piece of an enterprise grade project, then people on enterprise grade projects are going to be willing to work with you, of course, right? So yeah, if you go at it really hard and really crazy, you could definitely do it faster. And on top of that as well, if you do it faster, you're in the program and you're placed within a shorter period of time and you don't need our help, you don't have to pay 3 months. Like if you come in for 2 months, you get through it, you complete the projects, and you're off to go. Like we only really ask people to pay for when we're working with you very hands-on every day with the Q&As, because that's the most time intensive part for us, is to make sure we like keep people unstuck and to keep filling your mind with the knowledge about the industry, where you want to go. Like a lot of people don't a lot of people don't even know how systems fit together. And I shouldn't say that I shouldn't say that at all in a condescending way, but how the whole structure of technology fits together. Like how does a web page work with a server? How does a database work with a server? How does how do the different technologies, where do they fit into the stack? Oh man, my PC crashed. Just gonna check if people can hear me. My PC crashed there for a second, so I hope I'm back. But anyways, if yeah, anyway, so like I was saying before, is like basically having how the whole thing fits together, where certain pieces of technology fit into it. So if I say, Flask, like what does Flask do? What is how does that relate to SQL or MySQL? What's the difference between SQL and MySQL? Where's a database versus a web server? Like all these different things. How does it all fit together, right? We have to get that knowledge into your head so that you have just an idea of how this, like the whole industry works. And this is the kind of time intensive thing for us, that we have to make people go from having no knowledge to having all of this knowledge. And let's say you get in the program and you can get all this done in 2 months and you're off to the races. Well, then we're all the happier for you. Like we obviously take pride in getting people jobs, and then we don't have to put that time in like every day with you. Then at that point we're not expecting you to pay anymore. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. I think I just really like that question a lot. Like, could you get this done faster? And it's like 100%. Yeah. So are the projects enough to showcase our skills and abilities to employers? Yeah, that's a really great question, isn't it? Like basically what you're asking about is someone, if you do this, is it going to be enough? The truth of the fact is there's a lot more that goes into it, that of course I can't talk about just quickly, but basically it's close to enough, but your resume has to be good enough. Your LinkedIn has to be good enough. Your GitHub has to be good enough. You obviously have to have enough technical skills that you can clear a technical interview. You just, when I say good enough, you need to present properly. Like there can't be any red flags. We're going to take the red flags out. So I think your question can sometimes go to a worry about whether or not employers are going to consider you if you don't have like a master's or a 4-year degree or whatever. Those things you can get by without them. 100%. There are positions, startups, they just want the job done. And if you show them you can get the job done, you don't need to have all the other things to do it. And the thing is, it's kind of an amazing feeling, and I've seen students go through this, is they go from wanting to be in tech, but feeling like no one's going to take them because they don't have a 4-year degree, to all of a sudden seeing themselves be able to create projects, accomplish projects, write code, and then they realize, wow, I can just do the job. Like I'm confident. Like I don't need anything behind me. I can actually do the job. And when you get to that point, you'll also have that kind of your belief will be changed, right? Because a lot of people have a lot of doubt. Like I need a 4-year degree, all these things. You just need to be able to really do the job. And there's so much demand for it out there that in a certain sense, the people who need it, beggars can't be choosers, right? Like they're like, please, I need someone to do these jobs for me. If you can do it, they don't care where you're from, who you are. Just they do the job. So the goal is just convincing that you can do the job. And I would say that having a 4-year degree doesn't convince anyone you can do the job. It probably encourages people to believe that you have the potential to do the job, that you might be willing to train up to do the job. But if you put it with a bunch of other things, it definitely shows that you both have the potential and you can do the job, right? If you put it with projects, with interviewing skills, these kind of things. But a lot of stuff that they teach you in school, and like you can take it from me, is very, very, very theoretical, and it doesn't tell anybody the job. I actually had a pretty bad experience one time that I was working with a person, and they said, "Oh wow, you went to that school? I'll work with you for sure." And he said, "Do X, Y, Z for me," and I said, I can't even do X. I don't know how to do Y. And then after a couple months, we stopped working together because he was like, "Oh, so you can tell me all about like crazy set theory and weird math stuff, but you can't even write a basic program." And I was like, "Yeah, like I never really learned how to write a basic program." That's not exactly true. I did some computer science in school, so I could program a little bit, but like nothing like the students that we have now can program much better than when I was doing my 4-year degree. I honestly, and they're like, they will spend much less time than 4 years doing it, right? They're at probably like the 2-month mark, and they can already program better than I could back then. So, something to think about. Now, do they know about, topology and like abstract set theory notation, stuff like that? Like, no, they don't, but they don't need to. So, trade-offs, I guess. But yeah, so these are really, really good questions though. Um, and yeah, I think that might be it for questions. I We've got a really good group today, and I know that AWS is something people are really interested in. If you want to learn AWS, you want to learn how to script it, and you want to learn how to show people how you can use AWS such that they will pay you money to do AWS, and then have a career in tech, I really want you to join our program. We can do that for you for sure. Can this program help those who aren't looking for only DevOps positions like data science? Yeah, for sure, for sure. Python is such a universal language that if you want to do both, you can definitely do both. Um, to be honest, I had more of a background in data science and I was doing more machine learning. But when I realized how powerful DevOps is, I was able to pick up a lot of the DevOps tools because I already had a Python background without, pretty well. And so now I personally straddle some in between position where it's sort of like I do DevOps for deployment stuff. I do a lot of software engineering to write code, and but the core of what I'm actually working on are data science problems. So yeah, if you have these skills, these fundamental skills, and then you can put stuff on top of it. Yeah, and that's a really good point from Sonu. You can also do data ops. So this is basically machine learning machine learning projects. Really, they take some guys who are going to be doing the hardcore thinking about the math that goes into machine learning, but they need a whole bunch of other people to do other jobs. Like for example, once they have the machine learning models working, you need to be able to use that in production, right? So like let's say for example you're building a self-driving car. You need to have the self-driving car be able to identify a pedestrian in, let's say, video feed, right? But so then you do a whole bunch of science basically and research to be able to get the car to be able to identify the person in the picture. But the next thing you need to be able to do is you need to actually have that system be in the car. And that's called a machine learning engineer. So machine learning engineers are going to take the model that the data science create and it's actually going to put it into production, right? So another thing is that machine learning engineers, they're pretty good at taking a model and putting it in production. But a data ops guy, what he can do is he can automate taking that model and running it on 60 different computers. He can take that model and he can buy up a whole bunch of space on Amazon to give it like kind of superpowers. You know what I mean? The machine learning engineer guy, he's probably going to take what the data scientist did and he's going to make it into a program. The data ops guy, he can take that program and run it in 100 places or 1,000 places, whatever the budget is for. And so now you can have these distributed systems that are doing like really amazing things. So everybody kind of has their role to play, but you can work in that greater ecosystem of machine learning, and you can definitely understand it if you have a strong. You can understand all these different places if you have strong abilities in Python, and industry knowledge for sure. Will I be able to get mentorship for data science, data ops, even though this is yeah, for sure. Yeah, so we can definitely teach. Yeah, we can definitely teach you how to get into a data ops position. Yeah, it's going to be a lot. It's actually going to be a lot of overlap. And then one of our senior guys is also a very, very experienced data scientist. So he can help you with, model building, tuning, data engineering. We can give you a lot of information about, because a lot of people really love machine learning and they think it's pretty cool and they want to get into that. The thing is, I'm kind of saying is to be open-minded about where you would fit into machine learning. And yeah, a data or like a data ops program would be really helpful, I think, for giving you that direction you need. Great. So I'm going to just type in my, I'm going to send out my email here. How are we doing for time? I'm going to send out my email here, and feel free to contact me, everybody who has questions. And I'd be happy to set up a phone call with you and just talk about where you're at, what part of the program you'd moving into, if you're more on the beginner side, so we'd be starting you from fresh, or if you're more on the experience side, what your goals are. Yeah, everything. Yeah, just like happy to get in touch. And thanks so much for coming out and spending time with us today. And thanks again, Sono, for preparing that awesome demo. And I hope to talk to everybody pretty soon. Okay, take care.